Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, distinguished guests, and folks of all stripes, put your hands together for the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Houston, we have Paul Salazar Jr.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast, your Houston Astros podcast for diehard Astros fans from a diehard Astros fan. I'm Paul Salazar Jr., writer, comedy content producer, oldest man on the internet, and multi-hyphenate. I'm a Houston native where I would spend all of my days eating my weight in kolaches. I started Space Cadet Sports to be a blog and a podcast with the novel and refreshing perspective of actually liking the Houston Astros and being, wait for it, scandal, a fan of them. The media always tends to be negative or doom and gloom about the Houston Astros because, we got to be honest about it. The clickbait writers that work for those blogs and publications, they're on the coasts. And that whether that's the East Coast or the West Coast, the baseball teams from those areas don't like us, and the writers from those areas don't like us. So it tends to be really negative focused media about the Houston Astros. So I am your cool glass of water in this hateful, hot take sports environment. And look, I'm going to have my emotional moments too. I'm going to get into hot take territory too. I'm sure that's how it goes. We're all passionate people about our sports. But the main goal of this podcast is not to kind of stoop to that level or to be that, inciting or just to be inciting or angry just to be angry. These are supposed to be logical takes and long-term look takes in a world of crazy reactions, well as logical and calm as a crazed fanatic of a sports team can be. This is let's kind of get to it here. This is Space Cadet Sports Podcast. We're recording here in sunny LA. I'm joined, as you can hear, by my co-host and producer, the Roz to my Frasier. Carla the dog is here with me. I have it here in my show notes that she rarely gets on mic, but she's showing otherwise today. It is rare. She has been known to be vocal at times when I'm recording. There's a little bit of hubbub going on outside, so she's just letting me know. She's letting me know what's up. So be warned, there's multiple voices on this podcast. All right, well, sorry about that. Had to take a quick break there for Carla. She was saying hi to the neighbor. Full disclosure, sometimes I record the podcast and Carla has free reign of the house. So she totally was outside talking to the neighbor. So I had to go take a break to talk to her and talk to the neighbor, make peace. No, she's a very good girl, but she just was, I could tell, was not going to stop barking for a bit. So sorry about that. But she might get back on mic. Heads up. Today on the podcast, on the Paul Broad Pod Ball blog, we will recap the series versus the Pirates, and we're going to look forward to the next series versus the Rays, and we're going to give the trade deadline a grave and put to rest all of the complaining and talking about the deadline. Or at least we're going to try. And we're still going to talk about the trade deadline. We're just going to stop talking about it temporarily and decide to start talking about it again when it is relevant or when we're angry. But yeah, just trying to put a cap on the trade deadline for us Astros fans out here. But let's get to the series against the Pirates. The Astros were able to salvage this series, winning the last game 5-4 2 days ago now. I guess it's kind of what you get when you roast the Dodgers for salvaging their series. We didn't quite get the sweep. We got the gentleman's sweep there, and we got to make our jokes, and now we come around and play the Pirates, and the Pirates, kind of punched us in the mouth. I know it hurts, but at least this isn't the Pirates of years past. This is a good club, and we got popped in the mouth. It took 5 runs to win each game of this series, so this podcaster is looking squarely at the offense for not having enough to win this series. I mean, obviously, we want better pitching performances. Giving up 5 runs is not ideal. However, with the way this offense has been playing this summer, even without Kyle Tucker, that it's possible for them. They were averaging almost 6 runs a game for a while, and in this series, you kind of got to tip your cap to the Pirates pitchers that really kind of put the Astros lineup through fits and didn't really let them get a good offense going. So, in my opinion, this looks more like offensive woes, but honestly, maybe I should be looking at defense, because this Astros defense was really suspect in this series. What used to be a strength for this team has become a bit of a nagging problem, just like the injuries. If at the end of this season, we aren't where we want to be as Astros fans, the nagging injuries and these nagging defensive woes, I honestly will wear a lot of the blame, at least for me, right now. The talent of this team hasn't regressed in my eyes, at least that much, that is an issue. If anything, they have improved defensive talent, with more Jake Myers in the outfield and Singleton being an upgrade over Abreu at first base. And Mauricio Dubon at first, when he's holding down first, he's a fairly good defensive first baseman. But this team has just had some bad defensive luck this year. Pena has 11 errors on the season, which is, not what we expected. And, it's definitely, when you watch him play, it doesn't look like he's doing anything all that different, except that every now and then there's a bad bounce, just a bad release, a bad grip on the ball, just some tough luck. You can't say bad luck all around on some of those defensive errors, because you got to get a good grip on the ball. You got to get the right transfer from ball to glove. There's so many things that can happen that aren't exactly luck. That is skill, but it is kind of tough luck. The Astros pitching in this final game went almost exactly as scripted, from Jim Crane's mouth to Joe Espada's ears, with Fromber pitching 6 innings and then Abreu, Presley, and Hader closing down the game. The team only gave up 4 runs. Fromber has started to look good, and is starting to look good, really starting to get on a bit of a roll here. And honestly, it's right on time, because this team needs an anchor. This team needs a stopper. We cannot afford to go on losing streaks right now as a baseball club. Save us, Fromber. You're our only hope. No, truly, this team does need a stopper. We cannot, the Astros have kind of been treading water here for a little bit in late July, early July. There was a lot more winning. Lately, it's been a little hit and miss, especially after dropping the series. When this happens, we need good pitching to go out there, eat up some innings, and put on a good show and give the team a good enough effort to win a game. Right now, Fromber's on a bit of a roll, and we're hoping that he can be that guy. Moving on to offense, on offense, the Astros were able to finally break a game open and come from behind to win. The Astros have struggled in the past couple of weeks with inconsistent offense, arguably all season, but found enough to win the game with the help of a pinch hit master. With the help of pinch hit master Astros manager Joe Espada. That's a lot of hyphens, I guess, is why I couldn't quite get that out. Espada subbed a struggling Mauricio Dubon for John Singleton, and the Pirates subbed their pitcher in a chess match that happened for a little bit there in the game. I believe that was a 6th inning. Didn't write it down in my notes, but that Mauricio Dubon ended up winning that chess match for Joe Espada, hitting a pinch hit home run to put the Astros up 5-4, which ended up being the winning run and the winning moment. Truly, rookie manager Joe Espada has gotten a lot of weird heat from fringe Astros fans, and of course, will wear a lot of losses as a rookie manager, but he has been some kind of precog pinch hit guru. It seems that Espada has went for a pinch hit late in games all season long, and more often than not, it's the winning moment or the game-winning moment or a game-changing moment. Joe Espada is always going to live in Dusty Baker's shadow, but you've got to admit, Dusty would never pinch hit Maldonado, let alone a player that has had some time in the heart of his lineup. So you gotta love what you're seeing there from Joe Espada. I really do think that that his pinch hit moves all season long should really garner him a lot of praise from fans. While the Astros won and showed life, the box score and the reality of the stats show us a kind of a mediocre offensive performance. The Astros may have only struck out 5 times. And when I say kind of mediocre, I guess I mean really mediocre to bad, because they only managed 4 hits, but on 4 hits, they got 3 RBIs and 5 runs, leaving only 3 on base. And while it was a little bit of a measly offense, it was an efficient offense, and it got the win with a little push from the rookie skipper. So I'm counting it as a huge momentum shift type win, as opposed to a limping to the finish line type thing. They had to fight for this one, and that's what you want to see. In the last couple games, it seems like the Astros, in a way, no disrespect to the Pirates, who, like I said, are a good team, but in a way, the Astros were beating themselves, not executing with men in scoring position, defensive errors. Kind of like with the Hunter Brown game, there's that moment where, he's just 1 out away from getting out of the inning, or just really so close to getting a good situation for himself, and he ends up having to throw a lot more pitches, or he ends up giving up a run because he's throwing more pitches. So I feel like, this was a huge win for the Astros, because they had to fight to win it, and they did win it. They overcame their obstacles. So, like I said, salvage win isn't exactly what you want salvage in a series, but at least they didn't get swept. At least they got that win, and at least the Astros are still sitting on top of the AL West, with the rest of the mediocre AL West still kind of trailing the Astros, at least for the moment. This really is... as much as people are trying to bury the Astros, and they've been trying to bury them all season, and now they're finally the boogeymen again, this is the Astros moment to shine. This is the Astros moment to push. I kind of teased that we would revisit the Astros, the Houston Astros. I always mess this up. I named it, and I can't ever remember the name of it, but it's the Space Cadet Sports official Houston Astros panic meter for the 2024 season. We've been doing that all season long, because it seems like Astros fans have just wanted to panic and get scared and get all emotional all season long. And I do think these are mostly new fans. These are mostly new Astros fans, people that are here for the golden era of Houston Astros baseball, and they're not used to watching losing baseball. For you folks out there that are newer fans and are freaking out and you're getting emotional, I made this panic meter. I've been a Houston Astros fan my whole life. I don't want to say how many years, 30 plus years, let's just say, I'm in Hollywood, folks, okay? I can't say my age. I say my age range, right? This is the age range I can play realistically on TV. I don't want you to know my age. And then I'm not ashamed of my age, honestly. I'm 39. I'm making my jokes. I'm 39. But the joke is, I don't want you to know my age. I want you to know the age range I can play. But yeah, so for pretty much my whole life, we're almost going on 40 years now. And yes, out of the womb, I was an Astros fan. Prove me wrong. I've been an Astros fan forever. I've been through so many losing seasons. I've been through so many rough trade deadlines. I've been through so many slow starts, that I'm here to tell you newer or new Astros fans or bandwagon fans. So yeah, come on, be a bandwagon fan of the Astros. I don't mind, as long as you're reasonable. Well, I'm just trying to talk you out of crazy hate-filled statements and being a reasonable fan. So I made this panic meter for you. And because of how much panic has been going on, I promise you today, at the end of the podcast, we will revisit the Houston Astros, or the Space Cadet Sports official Houston Astros panic meter. I still mess it up, but that's fine. we will revisit the panic meter to let you know how I'm feeling and therefore telling you where about maybe you should be feeling too. I'm not trying to say that you should think exactly how I think and feel exactly how I feel. I'm not your dad. I'm not going to say that to you. But I am just trying to make recommendations, But let's go ahead and talk what all Astros fans have been talking about incessantly, the trade deadline. We are now officially in August. It is a new month. The trade deadline is over. We are in the dog days of summer. I don't know what that was. I'm glad I did it, but I had to. I was like, I almost got Carla going there. I got to be careful. That wasn't Carla. That was me. I am a master impressionist. That was Carla. If you want me to do an impression on the podcast, write what impression you want, and I'll do. Oh God, this is terrible. And I'll do it on the podcast. Full disclosure, I am not known for my impressions. I am, I'm trying to think of somebody who's famous who I'm like the Andy Samberg of impressions in Houston. I'm more of an impressionist painter than an impressionist comedically. I definitely, my impressions are never accurate. I'm just trying to do like a vibe check on who that person is. It's kind of like, when Will Ferrell did the George W. Bush impression, it's not an exact impression. It's not like this impression you're like, wow, he nailed it. But he kind of nails the right vibe. On a good day, I can do those type of impressions, like a vibe impression, but I'm not. And I mean, that me comparing myself to Will Ferrell in any kind of way is lunacy, truly. But I'm just saying my impressions are not good. But I will do an impression if you want. Let me know what impressions y'all want on the podcast. But let's get to the trade deadline talk, folks. Here, Astros fans have been very frustrated. I think, I was saying, and I feel like a lot of people were saying, the Astros are going for starting pitching. That's their main thing. The Astros are in a seller's market. That is undeniable. And the Astros have no commodities. So with that being said, and with those facts laid out, I said in my podcast, you can check the receipts, go back a couple podcasts, I was saying that the Astros, there's no way around it. The Astros are going to land a mid-pitcher. And I'm not trying to disparage any pitchers out there, especially Yusei Kikuchi. These pitchers are phenomenal athletes. They're doing more impressive things than I could ever do with my life. Me just saying mid in the meme sense, trying to make a joke that way, not disparaging these men's talents, but just trying to make that joke. I can't say stuff because honestly, mid is my life. Mid is my ceiling. I would love to be mid. But, we even going into it, knowing that we would get a mid pitcher, the name Yusei Kikuchi just did not inspire a lot of joy in Astros fans. I know it didn't do that in me initially. My knee-jerk reaction wasn't, we landed our guy, But really, when we're thinking about it here, folks, when people are getting so angry about Yusei Kikuchi, they're looking at Jack Flaherty, they're looking at what we had to give up for Kikuchi. They're getting very frustrated by this. But the Astros, frankly, they needed a starting pitcher. Jake Bloss could be a great pitcher in the league someday. I do not think that he is a great pitcher in the league today. And that is no offense to Mr. Jake Bloss. I think he, the slider looks good. He has the Houston Astros kind of rising fastball that people are excited about. People think that he has a makeup. They think he has an arsenal. But right now, he isn't who the Astros need. And, like I said, that's not saying that he can't be a great pitcher in the future. But right now, what he brings to the club is not going to help contribute to us winning. And we did give him a shot, and, I don't think it was a very fair shot because I don't think, he was just drafted last season. He was just promoted very quickly, rose up through the ranks, and had to be put under the microscope and needed and was asked to contribute to winning baseball when he is still figuring things out. And I feel like Spencer Arrighetti wears this too. Like Spencer Arrighetti is not as highly a touted prospect as Jake Bloss, but this man is out there, learning learning his analytics and making adjustments in real time. A real 4A type starting pitcher. And like I said, not to be mean to Spaghetti, but like this guy probably should be in AAA working on his arsenal and working through stuff. So of course Bloss should be there too. Bloss is just not the guy we need right now. So Kikuchi is a huge step up, and I think that people are so upset about this. I think really what your problem is that you're showing that you've never had to shop on a budget. Like the Astros really had to shop on a budget when they were looking for a starting pitcher here. And I know a lot of people were frustrated by who we got, and who we had to give up. But the Astros it's like, grocery shopping on a budget. Some of y'all don't know what that is. You have a tight budget, but you have to get two things, right? You got to get starting pitching and a bullpen arm. You got to go to the grocery store and you got to get those two things. But when you get to the store, the prices are much higher than they thought it was going to be, and you have to go to the bargain bin or manager specials. You didn't think I'd get political here, but yeah, we're getting... like when the Astros needed two things desperately. The market, the prices skyrocketed because everybody, supply and demand, for those of you who actually paid attention in class, but, by the way everyone talks online, I don't think anybody ever paid attention to any class they were in school. I don't think anybody values education anymore. But if you were listening and paying attention to your economics class about supply and demand, everybody in the league was demanding a starting pitcher. So the prices for starting pitchers were through the roof. There are a lot of bad vibes around the Astros right now because of this. But at the end of the day, I truly think y'all are just showing your colors. If you've ever had to be on a budget, you know what it's like. The Astros didn't have enough money to get the big names. I think a lot of people didn't have enough to land big names, and some people sat. That's why Crochet... That's why Snell, Scooble weren't moved. Just a lot of people knew they could land a lot for their pitchers, so they weren't going to give them up unless they were going to get something big. So I just think that y'all need to be more realistic and think about what it's like being on a budget. So the Astros just didn't have the commodities to get a lot of things. The trade deadline just wasn't sexy. The team is idling and has let Seattle, they didn't regain the division lead, but they're tied for the lead. So is it time to panic? So we will see. Let's see. So I think one thing I wanted to talk about before we got to the panic meter, while there's angry people. The Athletic and Fangraphs, I've been, for those of you who know, I always say I watch all of the games. I watch every single pitch of the games, and I read I read like it's going out of style, so I read so much about the Astros. So I wanted to talk real quick about the Athletic and Fangraphs. The Athletic Rates and Barrels podcast was really bullish on Kikuchi. I was listening to that podcast, not telling you to remind you that there are other podcasts out there, but there are. It's a baseball from a statistical and fantasy perspective type podcast, but they were really high on Kikuchi's stuff and stuff plus. He has a very hard slider. While he can go deep into games, he's not quite qualifying for a true inning eater label like I've labeled him as in the past. So I am kind of dialing that back because I'm looking at the stats. I am kind of looking at it. He's more of an inning snacker. He can definitely get into games, but there's not a lot of people that would say he's always going deep. He's but he can. We need someone that can actually. No offense to Mr. Jake Bloss, but get past the fourth inning, so a lefty with an amazing analytical scouting report who, according to Astros pitching coach Josh Miller, says doesn't need that many adjustments. He's been has been a statistical darling for years, and maybe an organization like the Houston Astros can finally find the success that people claim he can have based off of his stuff and stuff plus. They're basically saying that if he can execute his pitches, not leaving hard thrown strikes in the middle of the plate and having minimal home runs, he might be great. They're basically rating Kikuchi as the best pitcher in the free agent class that got traded, even over Jack Flaherty. And that's without even mentioning the potential injury issue that made the Yankees balk at a trade for Flaherty. I know a lot of people are mad that the Astros didn't land Jack Flaherty, especially with the Dodgers landing him, especially with the Dodgers only giving up 2 prospects to land him. But if the Astros really wanted Yusei, and if Flaherty had some injury issues, I understand why the Athletic is saying that Kikuchi's probably the best starting pitcher that got dealt in free agents in the trade deadline. I don't know enough about all of the pitchers in the trade deadline to say that myself, but it is kind of reassuring to hear that. And even though the Yankees that balked at Jack Flaherty didn't pick up a starting pitcher, they're happy they didn't get him. And maybe that's just my crazy Yankees fan friends that are saying that. But, we should just keep a tab on this to see and just kind of watch how the Yankees deal with their rotation with no addition and with tired arms and with young tired arms. Might be something to watch, as maybe, just maybe, we should be grateful that we got a couple of arms at the deadline. The Rates and Barrels guys said that maybe going into a Game 4 of a playoff series with Kikuchi isn't being named the starter isn't exactly going to fire up a fan base. But maybe after a couple of starts, that tune can start to change. I know it feels tough right now, but maybe this could work out. I know I've been throwing around a lot of maybes, but I'm trying to get you hopeful here, folks. I'm also throwing maybes around because I don't know. It's hard to really know what a pitcher is going to bring. But remember Charlie Morton, Joe Musgrave, Dallas Keuchel, Jake Odorizzi, even Fromber before his breakout season. Every team needs a 4th and 5th starter. And right now, and arguably the whole season, the Astros have needed one. And now to finish the season, we're going to need a 6th starter. So, while no one is ever going to be that excited about a 5th, 4th, or 5th starter joining a team, they are very much needed. And the Astros very much need that type of player right now. And if that's the only type of player they can afford is a 4th and 5th starter, then good. They got what they needed. And I'm just going to end that with maybe. That's all I'm trying to say is that he has good stuff. If Yusei can keep his hard thrown balls, away from the middle of the plate, those exit velocities, that people are kind of scared about, won't be that big of an issue. He just needs to find his command and locate. So, for that reason, I'm kind of going to say that Yusei Kikuchi, and not in how he throws or his pitch arsenal, but just in the sense of how the Astros fans might feel about Yusei Kikuchi, is I feel like he's going to give us some Fromber vibes. I feel like there's going to be some tougher moments from Kikuchi. I feel like there will be some moments, and that he's kind of given up a big hit or he's kind of getting himself into a little bit of trouble. But I feel like more often than not, my projection for Yusei Kikuchi is that more often than not, he's going to get us wins and he's going to get us big moments and he is going to locate. But when he doesn't locate, a big homer will get let up, some tense moments will happen, and we'll feel a little anger about it. Excuse me. Sorry, I had to burp there. But yeah, all that being said is that I do think that there might be a little bit of anger around Kikuchi sometimes this season because he's going to let some runs up. But I think the positives will far outweigh the negatives. But because of all the heat around him, he probably will have some moments where fans are going to be like, see, that's what I told you. This one inning, this proves everything. But I do think that overall, Kikuchi will prove that he is, I think he is going to prove that the trade was worth it and give us enough to get us to the playoffs and give us enough to make the trade seem worth it. The Fangraphs, said that perhaps this was a pitcher the Astros have targeted all along this trade deadline. Fangraphs have had an article about it that was really good. I do recommend going and reading that if you are into stats or if you're just a reader like me. But they were saying that they've targeted Kikuchi the whole time during the trade deadline, and that can explain the overpay. The Astros were looking around at the landscape. Crochet, Snell, Scooble, and others were not looking to be moved. So the Astros perhaps sweetened the trade to make sure they got their man. And I know people are upset about the 3 prospects we traded away. However, Wagner was about to go to the Rule 5 draft. That's just going to be a reality. No offense to Billy Wagner or Will Wagner. Will Wagner was most likely not going to make the team this season. He wasn't on the 40-man roster. And next season, it doesn't look like he was going to be projected to make the squad. So trading him away before losing him to the Rule 5 draft, really wasn't a huge cost to the Astros. It's kind of a nice move, a respectful move for Wagner to be like, why don't you go give it a shot somewhere else. But this, while Will Wagner is part of the trade, I don't kind of take him into the cost of the trade, and that's nothing against Will Wagner as a person or a baseball player, as much of just the kind of the black and white issue of we were probably going to lose Will Wagner anyway unless the organization decided that they had to protect him by putting him on the 40-man roster, and there really wasn't a spot for him yet. And it's kind of like Corey Julks or David Hensley. Sometimes you have these players that have been in the minor leagues for just a little bit of time, and it doesn't look like they are projected to join the major league team anytime soon to help them. So you kind of create a path for them to find success in the major leagues, whether it's kind of DFAing David Hensley, which seems a little cruel, but it gave him a spot with the Miami Marlins, or Corey Julks going with the Chicago White Sox, and now Will Wagner, who is most likely not going to be with the team, being traded away, to another organization, is kind of creating a path for these young players still, but still, getting a little longer in the tooth in the minor league system, making sure that they have a path there and clearing up some space for some younger players at the AAA level. So trading him, in my opinion, really doesn't cost the Astros. I think adding that to the cost of the Astros is just kind of, not the most valid argument. I think it was a sweetener. I think it wasn't the worst thing, but trading a highly rated prospect in Jake Bloss and a fan favorite rookie in Joey Loperfido really hurt the fans' feelings, getting them into that big emotion territory. But I think Loperfido was the only position player on the Astros' current roster the Blue Jays were interested in, and Bloss was the only pitcher probably the pitcher they most wanted. And, it probably was an overpay. A lot of people are saying Jake Bloss alone or Jake Bloss and Will Wagner would have been enough to move the needle, but I don't think it was. I think in a seller's market, Jake Bloss wasn't enough to move the needle. Jake Bloss plus Will Wagner, that isn't a good faith trade because Will Wagner isn't even costing you that much. Astros, we want somebody else, So I think that, it wasn't overpaid, but simultaneously it was the right price to assure you get your starting pitcher if the Fangraphs article was right, and that was who the Astros were targeting all along, which it does make sense because the Astros are an analytical team. Yusei Kikuchi is known to be an analytical darling, like I was saying earlier. I do think this is who they were targeting, so they sweetened the deal and made sure it was done so that they didn't walk away empty-handed like the New York Yankees. This trade will truly be judged at the end of the season, but based on the Fangraphs and stat nerds, it looks like Kikuchi's stuff and pitch arsenal and analytics are amazing, and he has great potential if his stats are a little bit lackluster. I could see Kikuchi being one of these pitchers that really figures it out in the Astros organization, and then when they walk, the fans get salty. I could see that Kikuchi having a great year, and in a couple months, Astros fans being, see, this is why the organization is terrible. This is why Dana Brown deserves to be fired. This is why Jim Crane is cheap. This is why the Astros' golden era is over. We just keep letting these good players walk. And it's like, I thought you hated Kikuchi. I could see him taking the route of Garrett Cole or Charlie Morton or Joe Musgrove. Like just somebody that really figures it out with the Astros and has a decent career going forward with another team. We will see. When I'm saying that I listen and read everything, and for those of you who have been following the podcast for a while, you know that sometimes I get on here and I clap back at people that are crazy podcasters or people that I think come in with just hateful takes. So I wanted to give a quick shout out, quick segment for Michael Connor. Michael Connor, the host of the Locked On Astros podcast, post-game podcast. Michael Connor, after the trade deadline, went on his podcast and had some crazy strong words. He just went out there. He got on mic, full emotion, and said some crazy things. And I feel like guys like him really rile up the fan base. And I understand having emotion. I understand having an emotional take and not being happy in the moment. But to go on to your podcast and say crazy things, that's wild to me. So here's my Michael Connor impression, but I'm going to speak about Michael Connor instead of the Houston Astros or GM Dana Brown. So here's my Michael Connor impression here. Michael Connor is an idiot. He deserves to be slapped in his face, and I invite him to come on my podcast and get slapped. No, I'm being strong-worded here because the man completely went off, slandered the Astros, had very strong words for him, saying Kikuchi, isn't an inning eater, which, like I said, I kind of go back on that. I do think while I said he was an inning eater, I do understand why people say he isn't an inning eater. I guess for me, it was a sense that he eats more innings than our current starting pitchers, so I'll take it. But the dude went on his podcast and he literally said that people need to be angry, and then he said people deserve to be angry. That's just crazy, Michael. It's baseball. Are you okay, man? Are you so angry you demand others to be as toxic as you? Plus, your anger, my friend, is a little unjustified. I feel like what you're making makes no sense. This is a standing invitation. I am being silly. I am being a little facetious. But come talk to me about it, man. Talk to me about your feelings. Debate me, my man. Come on my podcast. You say GM Dana Brown is bad at his job. But, you're terrible at yours and no one's being a dick about it, bro. Like... No, man, come on. Talk to me about it, Michael Connor. So tell me why you're so mad. You're already walking it back on your podcast like 2 days later. I just don't understand why you get on your podcast and you just yell and you get so angry. Oh, wait, no, now I do. You're looking for clicks, So you can stay mad about your trade, but you even say yourself, man, that Joey Loperfido is a flawed player. You say it yourself. Jake Bloss is an unknown, and Wagner is most likely a defensive utility guy. But you're still so angry at Dana Brown. So I guess to people that are like Michael Connor, and the people that are mad at this, all joking aside, and honestly, though, Michael Connor, I don't think he'd ever listen to this, but if you do listen to this and you want to come on the podcast or you want me to come on your podcast and, we can kind of do a pardon the interruption thing and we can Siskel and Ebert it and be our own, our fun nemesis to each other, we could totally do it. I just think that your anger and craziness is too much for me. But truly, the people that are like that, do you think it would be better for the Astros to keep throwing out AAA pitchers? Do you think that if this trade didn't happen, do you think the Astros really, realistically could make it to the playoffs? Because I don't. And I think that's stupid. I think that deserves for people to get slapped in the face, or why you should lose your job. You have so many strong for others. So many strong words for others. Like you get so mad at the Astros, and you're like, this is crazy. I pay so much for beers and nachos. Stop being a clown. It's this baseball team. It's an organization. You can only trade for what's out there. You have to move with the market. You can't manufacture a trade out of nothing because you want it. So anyway, with that being said, Michael Connor, with you and your negative talking points and your Trump mentality, you can come come and we can clown on each other and we can debate, man. I honestly think it would be fun. I do like a spirited debate, but I also do like people, using strong words for people that use strong words for others, just to be like, how do you? It doesn't feel good. When you get called all those words, and that just is part of the sports landscape. It is why we do this podcast. Reddit and all the X boys, all the they're not X Men, the boys on X and all the boomer radio call-ins. I understand it's frustrating, but to me, from my perspective, you're just telling me you're a casual fan of baseball without telling me you're a casual fan. I know it's tough to see this type of a trade, but you really do have to be reasonable. You have to understand that the Astros need starting pitching. You have to understand that these prospects and some, they will get traded. The Astros will have more prospects. It's hard to see right now, but every single trade deadline, the Astros trade away a couple prospects that everybody freaks out about. And the next season, somebody pops up and starts, playing for the Astros that no one had on their radar. So those of you who are so mad that Joey Loperfido is gone, were you talking about Joey Loperfido last season? You weren't. It wasn't until this season when he started, popping off in AAA that people got so excited about him and demanded him to be up here. So, there are going to be other prospects on the horizon. That's all I'm saying. Even if not a prospect, sometimes we have let big players walk and we have able to recoup their loss. Remember George Springer? Remember Carlos Correa? This seems like that kind of anger. Joey Loperfido is not George Springer or Carlos Correa. Sometimes a player can be traded because a team has a surplus and it kind of works out. Sometimes a player can walk, and it kind of works out. Don't get me wrong. I love George Springer. I love Carlos Correa. I even love Joey Loperfido. I'm just saying we never know the trajectory of a player. And if we're trading away a player, letting them walk to make space for what we need, not just for no reason, but we're trading them away for what we need to win a playoff series or a World Series. Isn't it worth it? Shouldn't we have a little bit of faith that Dana Brown can draft somebody else and bring somebody else into the mix? Maybe Bryce Matthews is on the rise. There will be other players that show up and will get us excited again soon. It's not like Joey Loperfido was our one last prospect. But let's dial the rage back, I guess is all I'm saying. Loperfido wasn't even that big of a contributor this season. I know he looks great and is electric, but we are looking at what the Astros need this season. And what we need this season is pitching, especially if we want to get to winning. So let's go ahead with all that being said. I am looking at the trade deadline. I'm going to go ahead and give the trade deadline a grade because I feel like that's what everybody does, so I have to do it too. I was thinking of even at one point, I think we're going to have to do a episode of Space Cadet Court and actually put Dana Brown's work on the line and see if he can beat the allegations that people have against him. Maybe that's the thing we'll do, in the next couple episodes. I definitely want to do a video podcast soon. They just take so long to make, but maybe we will do Space Cadet Court, kind of give it a real Pee-wee's Playhouse vibe. But yeah, at the end of the day, when we're looking at this trade deadline, I think that I have to give it a C. And I think for somebody that's going on the podcast and heavily defending the Astros front office and telling everybody they need to calm the rage back, I think it is a little funny that I'm giving them a C because truly, I think that I think that they could have found some way to get to give up a little less. And it isn't just about the Loperfido. It is a little bit about Bloss. It is about trading away $750,000 in international signing pool money to the Yankees. I think it's hard to rate this trade right now because it seems like everything that we've given up has is a good haul. However, we don't know exactly what Kikuchi and Caleb Ferguson are going to bring to the team, and especially with Kikuchi, who is a rental, I think that there is truly no real way to grade this trade deadline until we see what Kikuchi has brought. I think, in a way, this is like an incomplete that I'm giving this trade deadline. And I think every trade deadline should be an incomplete until you see how the trade plays out truly. But if I have to grade it based off of a letter grade and based off of what I think what an ideal version of this could have been, I give it like a C, C plus. I hesitate to bring it to the B tier just because the speculation of perhaps we could have given away less, but I don't think we could have. I think if we gave away less, we would have ended up with a lesser pitcher. So, it's so hard to tell, and it's also hard to tell what Kikuchi brings. I think truly, if the Astros get to the playoffs, it bumps this grade up to a B. If the Astros get to the ALCS or the World Series, it really bumps us into the A territory. And obviously, if this gets us a World Series, no one can complain about it ever. Even if Joey Loperfido ends up being a great player, I think most fans would grade it as an A as well. So I think, at the end of the season, we will truly see what type of a trade this was. I think, honestly, I think it's great. We are looking for an all-star, but Yusei Kikuchi is more of a floor guy. Like, his floor is so much higher than Jake Bloss's ceiling right now, I think. And that can change. Jake Bloss can turn into a better prospect. Yusei Kikuchi will age, but right now, I think it is very smart because his Yusei Kikuchi's floor is very high, and I think he's going to give us something good. Just time will have to tell, and this team performance will very much not just Yusei Kikuchi's performance, but the team overall performance and where they land at the end of the season will very much be indicative of how we grade this trade moving forward. But moving on, let's go ahead and talk some roster moves as we wrap up this podcast. Rafael Montero was DFA'd. I believe he's still owed about $12 million. And while people can speculate as to who deserves more blame, Jim Crane or Jeff Bagwell for the Jose Abreu signing, there is no debating the Montero signing was Crane and his hubris. Letting go of a GM because of egos didn't get along, and Jim Crane playing GM for a little bit of time because he's feeling himself after a World Series winning hangover. It's been talked about to death. Montero never could quite play up to his contract that he was signed for and eventually became an untradeable commodity. And with the roster spots in the bullpen, all at a premium, and the Astros pushing all their chips in for an AL West title run, Montero is no longer needed, and his roster spot is more valuable than the money they owe him in a contract. I think the Astros front office has been taking a lot of L's. They've been taking more L's than the team has this past week. It's been a tough week for Jim Crane, who probably wants to avoid the sports news cycle until a big story hits. I think Montero, they were saying, manager Joe Espada was saying that they're hoping that if nobody claims Montero, that Montero would accept the assignment and perhaps take some time to figure out his pitch arsenal in AAA. I don't know what we can expect from Montero as a pitcher going forward. I think there's talks of him relying on certain pitches too much. I think it was that he was relying on the fastball too much and needed to they were saying needs more breaking balls. I really can't recall right now, but basically Montero just has not worked out. Jim Crane and Dana Brown have finally washed themselves of some terrible GMing done by Jim Crane. And it's so funny. I think people are trying to blame Jeff Bagwell for this too. It's so weird. It's really weird that people are blaming Bagwell so much for this. Jim Crane is the owner. He makes the decisions. He signs the checks. You can get an advisor, but you don't have to listen to them. I mean, Jeff Bagwell's an advisor. He maybe advised some bad things, but I mean, calm down. It's Jeff Bagwell. Put some respect on his name. Quit speculating that he's doing stuff that there's there's no evidence of him doing. Stop being so weird, guys. The other casualty of the Astros roster shakeup is going to be Magic Man Seth Martinez, who's had a solid season, but after a couple of shaky outings, that's enough to give a look to fresh arms and send Martinez back down to AAA. They are saying that he needs rest, so maybe this is just a time to give him some rest. He is, I believe, Seth Martinez, as of yesterday, or as of the last Pirates game, he was either in the top 10 in relief innings pitched or right outside the top 10 in Major League Baseball, or in the league, I should say. Martinez is a little taxed, but is this deserved? Is it just because he needs rest? Should Dubin or King have gone down instead, or maybe even Caleb Ort have gone down instead, but Ort is the fresher arm. How would you organize this pen to go all in for the end of summer push? Because for me, I mean, I would give Martinez a break, but I hope to see more Seth Martinez once he gets a little bit of a break from AAA. We shall see. And with that being said, let's go ahead and look ahead to the games coming up this series against the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. Today, we'll see. We get our first taste of Yusei Kikuchi on the mound. I will say this is a home game. If you're somebody that's out there booing this man, shame on you. Y'all shouldn't be doing that. We don't boo our own players here. It's not something we do. Even with Jose Abreu, I was telling people we don't boo our own players. So just don't do that. Welcome Yusei Kikuchi, the first Japanese pitcher to play for the Houston Astros. Give him a warm welcome. We need him. So don't be a jerk out there, folks. Don't be weird, okay? But yeah, I feel like Yusei Kikuchi is the first Japanese baseball player. Not baseball player. Sorry, no. Japanese pitcher for the Houston Astros. We've had Kaz Matsui, Nori Aoki. There's definitely been Japanese players for the Houston Astros, but our first Japanese pitcher for sure. His stats, of course, I'm sure everybody knows him, but he is 4-9 in 22 games with a 4.75 ERA, 115 innings pitched with 130 strikeouts and a 1.34 WHIP. So we're looking for Yusei Kikuchi to go out there and shove and have a great first game for the Houston Astros. He will be pitching against Shane Baz. He is a right-hander, 25-year-old right-hander for the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. He's only pitched a couple games this season, only pitched 13 games his whole career. So we're looking at his career stats here. He's 3-3 with a 3.90 ERA, 60 innings pitched with 67 strikeouts and a 1.22 WHIP this season. His WHIP's a little higher. His strikeout rate is a little lower, and his ERA is a little lower, but we will see what Shane Baz has to bring. Shane Baz was born in Houston and went to high school in Tomball, so it will be a bit of a welcome home for this pitcher. So hopefully Yusei Kikuchi will give a great performance against the Houston native. On Saturday, the Astros are sending out Ronel Blanco, 9-5, 2.95 ERA with 114 strikeouts, and he will be pitching against Zach Littell, the 28-year-old right-hander from Tampa Bay, who's 4-7 on this season, 4.18 ERA, 1.35 WHIP, with the lower strikeout rate of 105 strikeouts over 114 innings. We'll see what Zach Littell has to bring, if it's enough to overpower Ronel Blanco, who has kind of dipped a bit. We're looking for kind of a bounce-back performance from Ronel. He's been throwing a lot of pitches. He has not been able to go as deep into games as we have wanted him to, but he's still got good stuff. He's still looking good. I'm just hoping this is kind of a return to form for him. And on the Sunday matinee game, actually Tampa Bay does not have a pitcher set. That's going to be a big TBD from the Devil Rays, and the Astros will send out Spencer Arrighetti. It's going to be spaghetti time at Minute Maid Park. Spencer Arrighetti is 4-9. Carla is very excited about Arrighetti time. Spencer's 4-9 with a 5.58 ERA and 92 innings pitched. It seems like he's pitched so many more innings than that, with 104 strikeouts and 1.554 WHIP. So we're hoping Spencer Arrighetti really goes out there, kind of solidifies his role in the back end of the starting pitching rotation, because we will need him going forward too. This is not a situation where we can send Arrighetti back down. It looks like he's kind of in it for the long haul, or at least he's in it for the next month. Maybe in a September call-up we might mix things up a bit, but I do think we need Arrighetti for the next month minimally, and we'll see where his inning pitch count is and where he's at as a pitcher. But we're hoping for a really good bounce back game for Spencer Arrighetti. The Tampa Bay Devil Rays are 55 and 53 right now in the standings. They are actually fourth in the AL East. It's so crazy, and they would be they'd be a contender here in the AL West, but they are fourth in the AL East. They have just done a fire sale. They traded away a lot of people. So this is kind of while we're kind of a team in a hangover from the trade deadline, they're kind of in a hangover from the trade deadline as well. We're hoping, since we're trending up and they're trending down, this could be a great series for the Astros. The Astros will definitely need to win this series. They need to win every series going forward, so that, that's probably something I'm going to be saying for the rest of the season. The Astros need to win this series. Honestly, it would be great if the Astros can sweep this series. The Tampa Bay team, they definitely are always, a good team. So I don't think that they will just roll over and lay down. But I do think that the Astros need to sweep this team. And, I think the keys to success, obviously, we are going to need some solid performances from the starting pitchers. I think, obviously, if we're going to sweep this series, we're going to need 3 quality starts back to back. I think Ronald Blanc, I think this is kind of the shaky part of the starting pitching right now, to ask for 3 quality starts back to back. Yusei Kikuchi is in his first game as an Astro, and Ronald Blanco and Spencer Arrighetti have both had a lot of innings this season and have been struggling to go deeper into games as of late. But I think something to watch and something that we will need, and this has pretty much been my keys to success all season, like John Madden, whoever gets the most first downs, we got to get some first downs. I know it's easy to say these really kind of simplified ways to win a game, but I feel if I get too complicated, that sometimes that's not good either. But I do think that if they can get some solid performances from these pitchers that have kind of been on the fringes, the back end of the rotation here, if you will, this team will have success. I think more importantly, as the Astros don't have a lot of pop in their lineup right now, they have not been hitting a lot of home runs. There's a great article in the I believe Crawfish Boxes has a great article breaking down how the Astros have been trending offensively. Obviously, I'm wrapping up this podcast. I don't want to go off on it too much. We'll probably talk about it in the future, especially if the Astros keep having offensive woes. But they are not trending upwards when it comes to hitting home runs and slugging. They have been a much less powerful team this season. However, they have also not been that great at small ball, and they have not been too good at moving station to station. I think right now we are in a bit of a time in our offense without Kyle Tucker. Kyle Tucker, please get well soon. We need you well soon. But if I could break off my shin and give it to you, Kyle, I would. But we need Kyle Tucker back. And until then, we need to move station to station, pass the baton, get hits. The Astros will always be a team that is aggressive early in the count when they have strikes being thrown at them. But I've been preaching all season, as this count gets later, they need to exercise more patience. They need to work some walks. Their walk rate has been very low all season long. They need to work some walks and get on base and pass the baton and keep the offense alive and do what the Astros have done very well in the past, which is do a lot of damage with 2 outs. If we can kind of return to form in those ways, offensively, the Astros will kind of return to their winning ways until they have more power in their lineup to do more damage. Also, I'm looking at Trey Cabbage to hit some more home runs. I think John Singleton needs to do some more damage, slugging wise, and if we can get Jake Myers, a combo of Jake Myers and McCormick to have more power in their bat will be good. I think those are some big asks, but we can do it. And simultaneously, obviously, after this Pirate series, guys, just sharpen up on defense. If there could be better defensive play, less errors, it will be good. And with that being said, with my John Madden style breakdown of keys to winning, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. We really do appreciate it. Whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on, please subscribe, rate, and review. Share this podcast with fellow Houston Astros diehard fans. Say that there is a diehard fan out there doing a ridiculous podcast about the Houston Astros, trying to talk everybody off the ledge. Share it with a friend who needs it right now. We definitely need to rein some of these emotions in. Whenever we act all crazy, just remember, whenever you're going that wild, whenever you're saying Dana Brown's an idiot and you're getting on your emotions like that, other fan bases are just rubbing their hands together and eating it up that we're acting so crazy. So, don't let them win. Don't let those big emotions get the best out of you. There's so many other things you can be emotional about in this world. Definitely check out the Substack. I've started writing articles again. Go check it out. We're going to have some meme reactions up soon. You can go to the Substack at spacecadetsports.substack.com. You can put your email into that field there and become a subscriber, where you get every article, every meme, and every podcast emailed directly to you for free. Or if you're like me and you like the app experience better, you can download the Substack app. You can subscribe to Space Cadet Sports on that app and just click a button, and now, instead of emails, all you get are wonderful notifications on your phone that tell you to check it out whenever I post anything. It's like having your own Space Cadet Sports Houston Astros app. Go check that out, folks. If you want to reach out to me about my crazy or wild lukewarm opinions on the Astros, if you want to come and check me out and come at me, or if you're Michael Connor and want to defend yourself, you can reach out to me on social media at at Paul Salazar Jr., Paul Salazar Jr. on all social media platforms. Check it out. Let me know what you think. Let me know who you think should be in the bullpen right now, if you disagree with me about that. And just thanks for listening, folks. We definitely have to keep our head up here. We'll see how Yusei Kikuchi pitches tonight. Please don't boo him. Keep your head up. Be positive about your Astros. And as always, vamos Astros.